This conference will now be recorded.
Welcome, everyone. I'd like to call this June 16th regular meeting of the State Board of Trustees to order at 5 p.m. Roll call, please.
Yes, sir. Calling roll, Mr. Caroline?
Here.
Ms. Johnson?
Here.
Stefano here, and Mr. Tony is absent this week.
Okay, please rise for the pledge of allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. First on the agenda, as always, approval of the minutes of the meeting on June 2nd.
Second.
Calling roll, Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Next is hearing the public for agenda items.
I do have an addition to the agenda this evening.
Okay.
I know there are several people here that want to speak on it too. They signed for non-agenda, but I'd like to add the noise ordinance as a discussion topic on the agenda this evening.
Well, you make a motion to do that, yes.
Do we need to make a motion for that? I don't think we've ever done that in the
I don't
past.
think we do.
No, this is an addition.
And I would suppose the only thing would be,
Yeah.
the other trustees rejected that, and
Okay,
yeah, I know.
Yeah. Okay.
All right then, hearing of the public for agenda items.
Do we have anybody sign
Did
in?
anyone sign in?
That, you're a non-agenda item.
Did anybody sign in?
All of it, no.
Okay.
Okay,
But I'll go.
okay.
No one.
Okay. Next, zoning department report, Ms. Strauss.
We skipped,
I wasn't expecting that, was on the agenda.
I just thought you'd want to report that. Okay, is there a new agenda?
Any questions on it?
Yeah, okay. All right, we did, just to clarify, we did have a resolution for abatement and that property was taken care of. All right, anything else?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, our road service, yeah.
Good evening. One item on the agenda for resolution 26085. This is to award bid and enter into contract for the 2026 Sylvania Township OPWC project. We received 5 bids, and 13 was the lowest best bid, and they were also under our engineer's estimate. So, pretty good bid. I recommend to approval, and this is for the project in Lakeville Park, across from Walmart.
and weren't we looking into whether the tree removal was going to take place in there? We had several residents that came and had concerns in the past. Did we ever get that resolved?
The project that the tree removal was of concern was for most residents was the sanitary engineer's office conducted a new water line. They replaced all the water lines in that neighborhood. It took about 50, 60 trees down because of the water line replacement. They moved it back. I haven't heard any additional complaints or comments from the residents that the engineer's office or the contractor didn't resolve.
Okay. Thank you.
Did you? No.
Did you offer
Jill's gonna.
it? Okay, second.
On the roll, Mr. Caroline?
Yes.
Ms. Johnson?
Yes. Anything else?
Thank you.
Thank you. For the fire department? Yeah.
Good evening, trustees, fiscal officer. Simple, I have one resolution for consideration. It's 26-082, authorization to hire one full-time firefighter paramedic. This will fulfill our last current vacancy.
Questions? Okay. I would move that to accept resolution 26-082, authorization to hire one full-time firefighter paramedic.
Second.
Call the roll, Mr. Gemini.
Yes.
Ms. Johnson.
Yes. Great, thank you. Police Department?
Evening trustees, Mr. Simcoe. I have resolution 26-084, a resolution to certify our eligibility list for police officers.
Questions? Okay. Great, and also move to accept resolution 26-084 to certify the eligibility list for hiring police officers.
Second.
Call the roll, Mr. Gemini.
Yes.
Ms. Johnson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Mr. Turner.
Good afternoon, trustees, fiscal officer Simcoe. There is a public hearing for streetlight petition for Bridge Street Plat 7, along with the accompanying resolution 26-073.
So open the public hearing for the streetlight petition for Bridge Creek at 7 at 5:07 p.m. Any discussion from the audience? Questions? Seeing none, we will close the public hearing at 5:07 p.m.
And offer resolution.
26-073.
I'll second it.
Great.
Call the roll, Mr. Gemini.
Yes.
Ms. Johnson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Hey, hold on, Oliver. I think we'll hit the noise ordinance with you up here to help steer this one. I know particularly in my neighborhood, there has been a resident who has been calling out the police to sign citations for noise ordinance violations for dogs barking. And I think I brought it up at our last meeting, or at least started to get some of the information going, and I believe the township has had some, was doing some research and things, so I know these residents would like to speak on that, and also I think we could give them an update in terms of where we're at and how we see this moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. So the noise resolution is generally one of the more, one of the higher frequency sources of concerns from residents that the police department will field calls regarding noise. The township does have a home rule resolution that regulates noise. And there were a couple of complaints, I would say probably 2 to 3 years ago, just an estimate, where there were citizens who were adamant about the citation being issued. And at the time, the police department had researched the process, conferred with the prosecutor's office. It was determined that if an officer in their discretion determined that they would not issue a citation, that a citizen would be able to issue a citation by signing it, and it would go through the process to Sylvania Municipal Court. With the recent citations that have come through the township, that's certainly something that we reevaluated. Last Friday, myself, Deputy Chief Pellecky, in the prosecutor's office, had discussion about this process and really looked at, is it the appropriate process if the certified law enforcement officer determines that a citation should not be issued? Is it appropriate that a citizen become involved at that point? And what we talked about, what is being worked toward, is that if an officer determines not to issue a citation, that it would be referred to the Lucas County Prosecutor's Office for some kind of determination, without additional guidance being provided to the citizen be able to issue a citation. So we do lean on the officer's judgment and discretion so that they can apply the noise resolution in a reasonable way. We do know that sometimes there are complaints and calls that come in where as an individual, we can plainly feel they have a strong personal concern, but based on how the officer administers noise resolution in other areas, and really the officer has the professional training to determine. It's a dog barking for a few minutes, in which case I think more or less have a conversation just to see what's happening, as opposed to a dog that's outside barking for hours. So I think that would be more likely to generate a noise citation. But it is certainly a process that we reevaluate and understanding that there's probably a more appropriate process to do.
And I believe the non-agenda people signed up. Do you have that list, Dave?
Yeah, way better, no better. Like that. Keep on it.
Please state your name and your address for the record.
I'm William Feather. I live at 4557 Crossfields Road, and I've lived there for 22 years. And I've lived in Sylvania Township for 39 years. I'm here to ask for your assistance. It's appropriate that you mention this. In our neighborhood of Redwood Farms, specifically an individual, Bryant Randall, who lives at 4558 Gulf Creek Road. One action is the abusive use of police time filing noise disturbance complaints. And the second is an invasion of privacy issue. I've contested this. I've already filed a notice of contestment with the township office, and for the following reasons. One, there's two standards in noise ordinance, and our dogs are never outside between 10 in the evening and 7 in the morning. So there's no chance that our dogs will do that. In fact, we let our dogs go out no earlier than 8 a.m. and they're inside after 8:30 p.m. And they're always, they're never unattended. They're always watched when they're outside. If they have to go to the bathroom after 8:30 p.m., we are fortunate enough to have a privacy deck, and we put little green DP pads out there, and they go on that, so they are not outside, okay? And so, there's no chance that we violate rule number 1 under the Ohio Revised Code about noise ordinance. Number 2, our dogs clearly meet the reasonable and sensibility standard when it comes to barking. Barking for 2 to 3 minutes duration would be an extremely long period for them, and they would never approach Ohio standard of continuous barking for 2 minutes. It's not like they're tied out in the back and they bark and bark and bark. That doesn't happen. They bark at deer and a squirrel that runs in front of them. The squirrels run fast and that is real quick. Deers, we've been having some problems with deers in our neighborhood with sauntering. And so they bark during that time, and I'll get back to that. Thus, our dogs have never violated each standard. And to support this, you have behind you 13 signed affidavits from neighbors supporting that our dogs are not a nuisance or a noise disturbance in our community. You'll recognize some of those names, I'm sure. Okay? While gathering these statements, I became aware that Mr. Randall has called the Sylvania Township Police on several homeowners, not just me, for issues with dogs, some as far away as 2 blocks from where he lives. This has resulted in multiple citations and a waste of precious police and legal resources. As a resident, I'm appalled at how many times Mr. Randall has used the Toledo police and legal resources to harass our neighborhood. I encourage you to contact the police to find the frequency of his requests and to deliver warnings and citations on his behalf. I know in my case, I've talked to at least 5 officers at 5 different times, and each has told me they don't see a violation. Last Saturday, I spent over an hour, almost an hour and a half, with one of your officers, and she and I talked over the fence. He called her, and my dogs were barking. Now, there was a deer that sauntered through, and they barked and barked, and it went down into the ravine, and disappeared, they were barking. Well, she comes out, she couldn't get there fast enough, and they're not barking. As a matter of fact, they're in the yard playing. And I said, we're here an hour, have you heard barking? She said, no, I need to cite you. But I have to deliver this, and he wanted to sign it to be a personal citation. And a question I might ask, do I now have a meeting with the prosecutor since that was signed on Saturday? I don't know. I guess I'll have to wait and see. I've talked to Mr. Randall concerning his actions, and he freely admits he does not like dogs. He went as far to say that our neighbor's dog makes his cat, an indoor cat, nervous. Okay, so you got a fence, 2 yards, and a house in between the two. That cat's nervous, you can tell. So, I recommended to him, why don't you use noise canceling Apple earbuds? They block out all noise. He rejected the idea. Earbuds really work. We've got 5 family members that work from home, that use the earbuds, they all have dogs, and it works. Okay, but he doesn't want an easy solution. That's the problem we've got. Now, my request to the township trustees, this is the matter of invasion of privacy and animal abuse. Mr. Randall has installed 2 cameras, I'm gonna call them like trail cameras, that record audio and video 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. These cameras are directed at my house, not his, and are within 3 to 5 feet of my property line. So you go right to my fence at my back windows. I can't believe that we're happy with that. In addition, he's installed an ultrasonic pest repeller to drive my dogs away, like it's a sonic dog whistle that we can't hear, but it's supposedly disturbs the dogs and hurts their hearing. Now, in 1967, and I'm not an attorney, but the U.S. Supreme Court established what was called a reasonable expectation of privacy. And enclosed and fenced backyards, not front yards, were included in high privacy areas. We routinely have our young granddaughters playing in our backyard, and we spend significant time in our backyard and on our porches reading and just spending the evening. Thus, I believe Mr. Randall is violating my privacy rights. I'm asking the trustees to request that the township police have this equipment removed. I think he's been violating my rights for several months. We've tried to talk to him and he doesn't budge. Now, I wrote this, and today, you can't make this stuff up. My dogs are behaving really well. He went out and bought a fake deer, the kind you shoot an arrow at, and put it on the fence row to try to get my dogs to bark. Now, what he would do then is he'd call Sylvania Township police and start going crazy, come on out, and when they show up, he pulls the deer and puts it inside the house, and makes me look bad. So I saw him put it out there. I drove to the Sylvania police station, and one of the officers that has been to my house before came out and looked at it and said, I can't believe this. Just shook his head. I said, what do you think he's doing that for? He says, he's trying to set your dogs up. So we have to nip that in the bud. I'm not an expert on the whole community wise, but we have 13 people. I went to 13 houses. Guess how many people wanted to sign this to bring him to tow? 13. Everybody's having a problem. And it's, when you go 2 blocks away, we had another lady that was stopped on the street when she was walking her dog, saying, don't you dare walk down my street. Your dog's too noisy. Middle of the street. Wasn't out her yard, wasn't next door. She lives over 2 blocks away too, on Sturbridge. And yet he saw fit to leave his house, chase her down, and approach her, and basically threaten her. So, what I got to say,
Okay, thank you.
I wish I could have had it on, and behind that, you're gonna see all of the attachments, and then the very end, I couldn't resist. I got a picture of these horrendous dogs that are breaking the bank, And so I trust that we can get that equipment out, because I don't know what kind of damage it's doing to my dogs. And he's an angry man. All I have to say.
I have one question for you.
Sure.
Is any of that on your property?
His stuff, no, his stuff's about that far away from my property line. So, but he's going, peeking through the fence. And I did a little bit of research, and he's too close to the property line. And it's all directed at my house. It's not at the property line saying, oh, did you put your foot over the line or anything like that? That's not what this is looking at. This is looking up right across the yard of my house, where we live. So.
Chief Belwicky.
Yes, sir.
I was able to speak to a Sylvania City police officer, and he was kind of telling me that their guidelines is if you have camera or surveillance equipment, it has to be focused majority on your own property. So if you've got something on your front porch that's shooting your porch and your front yard, like you're covered by that, but certainly backyard, what type of concerns would we have, or what, is he violating anything by pointing them at a house that's not, he's not necessarily watching his yard, he's watching someone else's yard?
In general, under the Ohio Revised Code, somebody with a camera used for security purposes on their property, in general, it can be pointed at a neighbor's house. And he is correct about the reasonable expectation of privacy. Excuse me. Pointing at a house is not the same as pointing it at a window. Pointing it into a backyard with privacy fence, or pointing it into an enclosed, any kind of enclosed structure on the property. It's a tricky area once you start entering that reasonableness, and we would probably need some consultation from our attorney on that. It's difficult, there's no question about it, because like I said, in general, in the ORC, somebody can have a camera on their property, and if it's pointed at somebody else's property, it's generally safe. How many Ring doorbell cameras do we have out there? Everybody's got a camera somewhere, businesses have cameras can be pointed at the neighborhoods from businesses. It's very difficult to legislate, as is the noise ordinance. But it's something we can clearly look into as well, and see what direction we can get from the prosecutor's office. My guess in the city is they probably have an ordinance to help govern that, to help dictate that for them, help give the officers a tool out there when they're working.
Yeah.
It can be difficult in a township strictly under the ORC.
Okay.
His yard is roughly 50 feet wide before he gets to his house, to the fence, and then mine's roughly the same to my house. Well, his camera is that far off of my property line, so he doesn't cover any of his property. It's all directed into where my grandchildren play. And I don't want him filming my grandchildren.
Correct. And I appreciate that, that's for sure, and we would consult with our attorney.
There's no security about him watching my grandchildren.
Well, pictures and cameras around you would be completely.
If he was to film himself, I'm fine with that.
Well, we will look into that. Mr. Burrell, you came in late here, and it's funny that's our attorney's name here too, so. Did you want to add anything to the noise ordinance and the dog issues?
Sure, thank you. Hi, my name is Chris Burrell. I'm another neighbor.
Could you list your address?
Oh, yes, I'm at 4532 Gulf Creek Drive. So 2 doors down from the neighbor that's been complaining, sort of on the same block as the Fletchers. This neighbor had filed a couple of complaints with the Sylvania Police Department against us, both of which we contested and ended up in Mike Biglio's court to dispute. The first time I even met the neighbor was at the court hearing, the first one. I didn't even know who it was that was complaining against me at the time, and our dog. The second complaint happened the week of the court hearing, so the neighbor and I sort of chatted at that time, and we agreed to postpone the hearing until they could be merged. We could have the second one, have them all at the same time. In the meantime, the day before the second hearing, he contacted the prosecutor and said, "I'm not showing up, I'm dropping it, everything is okay now," and everything was dropped, which is that's great. I showed up for the second time to Mike Biglio's courtroom, and was happy to say, "You dropped it, I'm happy, I'm going home." So there was never really a day that I, was able to go to court and say, "Hey, I wasn't in violation of this noise ordinance." I don't think that we were. I think that I would be able to prove that I did not violate the noise ordinance. I don't feel like that's not the difficult part for me. The difficult part for me was that this neighbor was able to get the police with essentially no cooperation, but his own word, to say, "I'm annoyed at my neighbor, I want you, police, to issue this citation," which starts the process of getting essentially a prosecutor for the township to act as his attorney, right, in the proceeding. I mean, he's essentially saying, "Look, he had no skin in the game, except for, burning goodwill with his neighbors, I can tell, as far as sort of what happened to get this legal process going." And as a lawyer, as a law professor, I feel like that's sort of a bad system that he should have. I mean, again, if he wants to hire an attorney and throw $5,000-$10,000 at suing his neighbor, I have no problem with that. I don't think the noise ordinance is poorly written. I think it's fine. But I didn't really appreciate that the police were the ones, and the police were very clear. They said, look, we have no reason to issue this citation. And they were very good in comment. They said, we're just delivering it. Like, your neighbor has the right to do this, to issue this citation against you. Again, if that's the law, it's kind of wrong. I mean, I feel like the procedure is wrong in these situations. And, you know, I think there'd probably be nothing to stop me from calling the police and saying, my neighbor's annoying me and he's being loud. He drove his Jeep by my house too loud one night. I was just playing music. I went to issue a citation against him. It was just essentially what's going on. At least very clear. They didn't hear my dogs barking. They didn't, like, they witnessed nothing. And so, you know, I feel like that was sort of my problem with the process. I mean, it was all dropped and, you know, he's gone away. If he hasn't complained again, I figure if he did issue another citation, I would just say, look, you dropped the first two. You know, what is this? Just harassment at this point? I don't know, but I guess that was my complaint about the whole process. And again, you know, the police and the prosecutor, everybody was very kind, and you know, Mike Bonfiglio was very, you know, Judge Bonfiglio was great. Everybody was great in the process, but I felt like the process, now that this neighbor has figured out how it works, he was using it against his other neighbors.
You did come in a little bit late, and we did address that the police will no longer be issuing those citations.
Okay.
Is that correct, Oliver?
Yeah, so, yeah, thank you. We're looking at updating the guidance, and it will be the case that the officer, their discretion determines the citation will not be issued. Then at that point, it will go to the prosecutor's office. Then the prosecutor's office will lay out all of the facts and determine would there be next step. That's the other thing I have.
No, I mean, I think that'd be much of a preferable system.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll one thing to talk through the prosecutor's office is, and clarify that their role is to serve for the township's interest, so they're a separate party from the complainant and the person who's receiving the complaint, so we do want to clarify that, so, you know, it's clear that their role is.
Yes.
Everything Mr. Turner says is correct in regards to how we're gonna move forward with enforcing this. And the instruction went out yesterday, and it's part of the instruction, having a kind of roll call to make sure that officers know to end the practice of basically taking someone's word and somebody wanting a ticket, and that being enough to issue a citation. So that should end. It came into effect on, you know, the officer is being put into the middle of a situation immediately. You have two upset sides, and one side is going to be upset regardless. And even though the officers don't want to do it, it sounds like that they were pretty open about it.
They were very pleasant, saying, we wouldn't have issued you a citation, but he's issued
And
it.
then they go back to complain, it maybe not just this case, but any other case. They go back to tell the other side the bad news, and now they're getting screamed at by the other side, and they're looking to mediate. And this is proven to not be the best way to mediate. And as Mr. Turner said, basically the prosecutor's department will be doing the mediation for us. We want our officers to be officers, trusted officers, use some reasonableness to this. If a dog outside barking at 2:30 in the afternoon for 20 minutes is really not unreasonable. The way it was written, I think it was meant for other purposes, like maybe a dog that's outside for 12 hours barking for 10. And that's probably reasonable.
I understand.
And I think that's a better direction moving forward, and I think that the prosecutor's office is willing to help in this. And hopefully we can have a good resolution to it.
Well, wait till tomorrow's roll call, when the guy tells you that he put a fake deer on, trying to get my dogs to bark.
I walked in and somebody told me this, and I didn't know about it.
It's incredible, they didn't do that.
I can't quite answer that.
I don't know either. I mean, what is he thinking? My dogs are smarter than him, they wouldn't bark at him.
Well, I certainly appreciate everybody's time, and the best thing about it is everybody who come to me and had issues always say that our officers were top notch and handled it the best case scenario, because again, you've got two people who are agitated, and that can usually go wrong very quickly. And everybody has always commented that our officers handled it very well. So, Chris, you got something to add?
Yes, I mean, that'd be the case if this is the new sort sort of way the prosecutor sort of being the mediator, could be passed on to the prosecutor's office, that perhaps instead of scheduling these citations that are currently outstanding to at least 2 neighbors that I know of, not me personally, but 2 others, that perhaps they not pursue those cases in court, but just drop them. I don't know that, I would assume that there would be some procedure that either the police or the township could just drop the citation against these neighbors instead of forcing them to go through this legal process that I know that I had to go through, because it wasn't, the easiest thing to go through.
And you're an attorney.
Yes,
So that
exactly.
makes it a little bit easier for you.
And again, I did do it on my own, but I wouldn't want to go out and hire somebody to do it necessarily because I thought it was super frivolous, but at the same time, it is sort of scary to go through any kind of proceeding pro se. So
Thank you for your
I did have one
comments.
quick question.
Yes.
So when someone then files this in, like, let's say in the city, does the city prosecutor's office represent them? Against another?
What, well, I didn't talk to anybody in the city
It
about.
seems to say that.
yes, the lady judge was the attorney essentially for the township against me in the proceeding.
Oh,
I mean, she wasn't technically representing the neighbor, she was representing the township, but she was prosecuting the citation against me.
It's coming across as the township's giving
Yes.
him the cite, or giving the citation.
doing a citation and assisting him.
Yes.
Present.
Yes.
Right.
And one of the things with our noise ordinance, it says something to the effect of, who's bothered by it. I think we'll hand this over to them with the 13 residents who don't think because I live closer to these dogs than this guy does on some of them. And, I haven't called the police on them.
It just doesn't seem to me like someone should be able to, on their own, I don't know, cause a citation to be issued and then get the full force, weight, and fury of the city of Sylvania after you.
Yeah.
Because
Well, it's a Luke County prosecutor.
Or the Luke County prosecutor.
Yeah.
If something seems,
Out of whack.
I laugh with that, because there's really no, it's just this guy's word, and I don't know, it just seems, but probably that needs to be reviewed, that those ordinances, so that, plus I know my dog's part too. And I don't live on this. I mean, it's
Can I say something real quick?
Yes.
We've lived in that neighborhood, we've lived in that neighborhood 22 years. The atmosphere of the neighborhood has changed. When I first moved in, my children at 14 were the youngest kids in the neighborhood that we knew. Then the Feldstein son was the same age. A lot of young families have moved in. A lot of the people that had 14-year-olds have gotten older. So we've got older neighbors as well. It was a neighborhood where you could walk, the black collie would be out, the collies up on the hill would be out, the soft-coated, or whatever that was, and, you knew where all the dogs lived, because they were all out in their yards, and they were all dogs. I thought the black collie had died, because we have seen it so seldom. And I used to see it every day when I walked my other dog. We stopped by today and found out, oh, it hasn't died. They just don't put it in the yard anymore because they don't want to incur the wrath. That's not Sylvania Township. That's not how we live. That's it.
Thank you.
Maybe you should probably
Appreciate your time.
say your name.
Leslie Talkington.
Your address, please.
Pardon me?
Your address.
Oh, 4557 Presco's Road.
Okay. All right, thank you.
I do have one more thing I would like to address under the administrator, that I didn't bring it up, but, Airbnbs. It was brought to my attention that the township police were able to deter somebody from renting a house, throwing a big party that was advertised on social media. And I don't know if you were here, Oliver, Dave, do you remember when, that neighborhood across from Lancelot and over there, that one lady came in and they put an Airbnb in that neighborhood, and she brought up concerns. And we never really got to the bottom of if that's allowed in a neighborhood. And I believe our police department had, discussed it with the zoning and everybody else, and our prosecutor trying to see what can happen, but we all know the consequences of that disastrous party over there by Westgate, right behind Lincolnshire area. And from what I saw from some of the things online, these are things that we don't want in our community. And I would like us to look at, what sort of tools can we have to make sure that these aren't happening in our neighborhoods? Because again, the house that I understand, it was $1 million house that somebody had rented out to throw a party. And, I'm gonna start looking at it from the insurance side of things and see, to make sure that these homeowners are aware that I doubt their homeowner's insurance's liability is going to pick up, the damage that's happened behind it, certainly the liability, if certainly gunfire with shots at the one, and I just, I want to be way ahead of this and know what we can do to prevent this action and get it out there to make sure that they're not happening in neighborhoods in our community.
I agree.
Yeah.
These things they need to be more regulated because it can get out of hand. This is just a couple of couples coming into a house,
No.
and all that.
Yes.
Craziness.
Yes. And they're rented for the party and things, and it's disastrous. It's way too close to home.
You can't be turn into a disaster as said on that entire thing.
Yes. So can you start working with the prosecutor? And number one, I'd like to know, how is it legal or through our zoning codes, if you're renting a house on a temporary basis? I mean, I don't know, but I'd like to know whether that's a business or not a business. And I'll look at the insurance side of things, and then law enforcement, what can we do? Again, I think we need constant social media monitoring to make sure that these things don't, we were lucky to stop that before it started. At 10 o'clock at night, it can be much worse when we're trying to address those issues.
Yeah, certainly happy to research this.
Okay.
I did have a conversation with a resident of the area across from Lancelot. This was probably 3 years ago, about.
Okay.
And at the time we researched it, and it sounded like the ability of the township would be to have these properties registered, but in terms of the actual enforcement, would be fairly limited. Now, it would be important to go back and revisit. We can certainly do that, see under a limited home rule authority if there's something more that we can do than the general township, and certainly look into that.
Okay. Thank you.
They have 60 years of insurance experience between the two of us. If you buy a regular commercial homeowner's policy and you decide you want to make a quick buck and turn it into a VRBO for a big time party and somebody dies, highly likely that the insurance company will deny coverage because you converted it to commercial use. And so, a lot of people fall into that trap, and we see people, no, you need to sign up for this, and I repair cars in my garage and the car falls on somebody, they get crushed. You go, oh, my homeowners will cover. Not necessarily, not if you're charging for car repair. The same principles to here.
Well, we'll try, not only will we find the facts out, but we'll try to get them out through the Sylvania Advantage and some of our website, social media stuff, to make sure that the residents know that these are the consequences if things go wrong. Thank you. All right, sorry, Joe.
All right, perfect. Oh, yes. Mr. Sutton.
Officer, we have one resolution, a couple of resolutions, but resolution number 26-079, And it's basically to establish new revenue expense accounts and appropriate funds pertaining to the police and street fund. And just as a law. And so that actually passed that resolution, please.
Any discussion, John? All right, move to pass resolution 26-279.
Second.
All in all, Mr. Dillon?
Yes.
Ms. Johnson?
Yes.
Next resolution, 26080, and that is a resolution to appropriate from the unencumbered balance funds and reducing certain appropriations. And you can see them listed in the resolution.
Question or discussion? I'll move to approve resolution 26-279.
Second.
On the roll, Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Johnson? And lastly, resolution 26-081, and this is a transfer of appropriations and listed them out for you. It has to do with the fire capital fund, road and bridge fund, and just transferring some money around.
I'll move to accept resolution 26-081. Transfer of appropriations.
Yeah, Mr. Dillon?
Yes.
Ms. Johnson?
Yes.
That's all I have. Thank you.
All right, we have had the hearing as a non-agenda item, so we're going to move to open discussion and reports. First being the fire department.
You were provided the monthly reports for April, May, February this year. For your review prior, happy to answer any questions. It's a lot of content there.
I would just like to make a comment that I was very impressed with your comprehensiveness in your report. I actually read it all. Or skimmed some,
It's
but
certainly not me, it's our team that puts all that.
very comprehensive. I appreciate the effort.
And our residents can find it out online if they'd like to go look at it themselves.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, next, police department.
This will be our quarterly report for March, April, May of 2026. Anybody have any questions?
Yeah, could you read it? No.
Chief, we talked a couple months ago about kind of using a heat map kind of thing to show where crimes are at. Do we have anything?
We're very close.
Okay.
It's all done through the county's software reporting program. And
Okay.
it's a beast, it's a monster, it does a lot, which is the good news. The bad news is most of us in-house don't know how to manipulate that beast and that monster. But we are working with the county and they know exactly what we want. We got a follow-up call this morning, the heat map. So we're kind of going over two separate maps. The heat map can be somewhat deceiving because a lot of things are happening on Central Avenue and the big box stores and things of that nature. And then we're gonna work on a second map to kind of take those out of the equation and include crimes that citizens are gonna be more interested in, property crimes, assaults, things of that nature. And it'll be two separate and yeah, we're very close. It's been a long process, but we're very close.
Great, thank you.
Will that report also include crash reports or that it's separate report?
I believe,
We had talked about
so we
frequency
included, in,
types.
what was the first one? So if you look at April, this would be
I
the
don't
report.
have it.
And we were gonna include this monthly, and if we could put this on our Facebook page, just as easy, it's not difficult at all.
Whatever's easiest.
Okay, yeah, that's not a problem at all.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Okay, road and service department, quarterly report.
You got everybody tonight.
EMA's second quarter report for us for 2026. This work was previously submitted to the self-explanatory and the service department report as well in there.
Some of the key highlights, basically was our spring and leaf, township-wide brush pickup we expected. We're currently in our basically our construction season, so it's just the start of that. Doing a lot of concrete work, a lot of the projects out there helping bid. One of them, is wrapping up currently, and, we are anticipating, we had some storm damage. A lot of phone calls regarding if we're picking up brush. At this time, I don't feel it's necessary to do a special pickup. It's very expensive, it probably costs us around $100,000 to do a township-wide special pickup. And the majority of the residents have not, had the brush out there, but we still have, if we had one, we'd have to cover the whole township wide, and so the fuel costs and the labor and maintenance to do that is expensive. We are anticipating some severe storms today and tomorrow night, so we'll see what that brings. Some straight line wind would be possible for any of those. On the news this afternoon, so we'll see what that brings, and if determined, we'll just have a discussion with the administration to provide that additional pickup. I don't feel it's necessary at this time, but there's no other questions.
A brief question on the bridge. Are they on schedule? Are you involved in any of the updates? And
Not really involved with too much of it. I'm under the impression, I've had several conversations with Joe Shaw, the safety director, and it seems like they are ahead of schedule.
That's what I'm hearing too, but I wanted to confirm.
Yeah. So it sounds like they're a little bit ahead of schedule. The weather's been decent, so we'll see if we can keep that pace up. Hopefully, it's a little bit of bad timing, I think, with the Whiteford and Road Street construction. Neither of those projects are township related, but our residents do have to suffer through the consequences of those decisions. So, going forward. So.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, last but not least, zoning department quarterly report.
Mhm.
I can answer any questions you may have on the report.
Would you care to just hit highlights if there are some, or trends that you're seeing?
I'll just say we're having a pretty good year so far as permits and single-family dwellings. We're up, as far as the number of permits, 20%, and estimated value almost 84%. And then the single-family dwellings are up almost 39%, the number of permits, and estimated value is up 71%. And the estimated value per dwelling at 463, 643,000 is almost 24% increase from last year. Everything else is nothing really major. Our new code enforcement officer is working out really well, seems to be proactive. So quite pleased with his performance so far.
Okay. Any questions?
No. Thank you, Darrell.
Thank you.
I'd like to put a plug out for the fire department's pancake breakfast tomorrow. Everybody can make it, try to get over there. Other than that.
Start at 6. All right, now we'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting at 5:29 p.m.
Second.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you, everyone.